Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to our channel. And we have, of course, the wonderful, extremely talented Denise Ramon Healer channel, and don't blush. And she is going to channel my son, Eric. Eric, I love you.
He says, "Hi, Mom." He goes, "I love you." Did you just speak with him?
Yeah, I did in the scalar field a little bit, but
Yeah, because he's telling me that he just spoke with you. He said,
you're right. So look, you picked this for Denise out of a list, so let's go with it.
yeah.
This is going to be about astral projection, and this beautiful lady sent me this. O are her initials. I don't know if she wants me to divulge them. Anyway, thank you again for all of your videos, Elisa. I love watching from England. I just read your post because I said we need to get more direct dialogue with Erik instead of just channeling celebrities. So I'm really interested in astral projection at the moment, and also the Akashic files and how to access them. So maybe we'll divide it into two. My reason for the interest in astral projection is that I used to do it at will as a child. Cool. I blocked it through one bad experience, as there was a man who could see me, and he wasn't very nice. He was probably on the astral side too. I wasn't used to being seen. On the other subject, I've heard that normal people can access Akashic files, but would really like to know how to learn to use them to further our soul journey. So, first of all, what was going on with that man? Was he in the astral plane? And was he bad?
Erik says yes, he was, and he was. Erik says he wouldn't say he was bad. He just wasn't staying in his lane, and so he just was. He didn't know the rules of. And it's not that we have rules, but he didn't know the protocol of when you astral travel. It's like you don't stare at somebody, because when people are astral traveling or whatever, it can startle them. He says, if
So
they're.
was it a living person just astral traveling, or was it?
Erik says yes, it was a living person. It was a living person.
That's really interesting. All right, now here are her questions. Can astral projection be used to travel to parallel universes, Erik?
Erik says definitely yes, absolutely, 100%, and a lot of us do that. Yes.
Okay, so tell me some of the rules of engagement then. And it might be in here, this question, but I think that might be important to know. If we want to learn to astral project, what are the rules for us?
Well, Erik says it's always good to ask for protection, and you don't do the astral projection, astral travel. He says you don't do that to be nosy, to see what somebody else is doing. You're doing it for your own benefit, your own growth, is what he's saying. He goes, but people do it for fun. They're just not. He says it's the intention prior to going into it, is what he's telling me.
Can it have practical applications for our life, like practicing and while you're astral projecting a job interview? I mean, is there anything practical that you can use this for in just the 3D life?
Erik says yes, of course. He says he's saying that how he's telling me I'm going to dumb it down for you, Denise, is what he's telling
me.
So he says he thinks that's funny. He says, so you mentioned about a job interview. He says you can use it for something like that, but not to see if you're going to get the job. It's like you can use it to see maybe if you would like the position,
Yeah.
Or you can look at the position or look at the environment to better educate yourself so that you can have more knowledge of what you're talking about when you're doing the interview and stuff like that. Because sometimes he says we apply for jobs and that's not really what we think it is, even though they tell you a nice picture, but you can go in and look at the dynamics of things. He says, so it can be benefit for that. Also, too, Eric says in the astral projection travel, you go into you can go into different parallel lives, different dimensions that can help you with things that you're having issues with in this lifetime. And it can help you with things that are going good in this lifetime, so you know how to better move forward with it, whatever the situation is. He said, so it can help you in many ways. He goes, it also can help you with your health, because you can see sometimes what you're doing in other parallel lives, or what's going on in different dimensions that you can bring in into this life right here, and to help
Like
you
if
with
you're
that.
healthier in a parallel life, what's that person doing? I want to do that. That sort of thing.
That, and also too, you can see, you get to see you get to compare what it is you're doing in this life, that you're not doing in the other life, as far as how he says, how you're processing your thoughts, how you are handling your emotions, how you're, where you hang out, the people you engage with, um, the food, of course, the food you eat. But he's saying, but more than that, and he says, sometimes you can see why you hang around people in this life, why they're always so heavy, because they can show you in a parallel life, or as you're traveling, what's going on, and it can help you to make the decision to, I don't want this,
Get
because it
toxic
usually,
people out of your life. Things like
yes,
that, for example.
yeah, and why you feel obligated to hang around with that type of energy. And he also says it's also very good because it can help you with your abilities. We all have these abilities, and for people who are interested in the travel and that, usually um, have an interest in furthering some other abilities they have. If it's even just for themselves.
How does astral travel help you with your gifts?
Because you see how you're not limited in other areas.
Oh,
He says, because it's like you get to go shopping, he says, and see um, yourself or other areas, how it's just normal, whatever the situation is. And then you get to see how you project your human stuff on it as to why you're not doing it.
no.
Or you get to see how you're projecting fears or whatever that doesn't pertain to this lifetime.
That said, can you astral travel to explore a past life of yours or a future life of yours?
Erik says you can. You can. He says you can.
But that's an advanced level, right, Erik?
He said yes, because they're not going to, your higher self isn't going to let you go any further than what you're ready
Oh, good.
to be around. So there's that protection. You have your higher self, and of course you have your team, your council, whatever you want to call it, your guides or whatever. They're not going to let you go too far out there. But he says, when you're doing this kind of stuff, you want to make sure you're doing the, he says, the paperwork. You want to make sure you are, what your intentions are for this. Ask for protection and stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be this long ritual or anything. And he says, and kind of go in with an intention of why you want to travel.
Interesting. Erik, when you were alive, did you astral travel at all in retrospect or not?
He says, of course, where I am now, he said, yes, he did. He said,
When you were
absolutely.
alive.
Yes, when he was alive.
And you didn't know
Yes.
that probably, right?
No, he didn't know that. He says he really thought that was part of his mind not being okay, his illusions and stuff, and he didn't know how to put it into words to tell somebody. Because I don't think he said, I didn't know those words to put that in there.
No. So can you share one of those astral traveling experiences of yours?
He said, yeah, he said, what there's two of them he wants me to share. One of them, he used to go to Norway a lot because he said he loved it in Norway. He
Yes.
would, okay, so he would always go there a lot. That was like he said, my happy place.
That's the first
And
place you went.
oh wow,
Yeah.
okay,
Sit with his grandfather. And
yeah,
now, yeah.
that's yeah, that he loved it. That was where he would go. And then another place he said he would go, not often, because it kind of he kind of I don't, it's not that it startled him. It was just like, whoa, the way he showed me. He said he'd go to the top of a pyramid.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
I was afraid of heights too. So that must have been,
Oh, okay.
oh,
Yeah, because the way, yeah, he just was like, he didn't do it often, but he would go there.
I wonder if it would help you resolve some phobias. Like if you have a phobia for heights, do something like that and realize, hey, I'm not dead.
He said,
Oh,
yes, when you're educated about this type of traveling, he says, when you educate yourself about it, when you are traveling, he says it definitely can help you with phobias, your fears about anything. He says, because then you get to see why you're afraid.
yeah.
And
So
then it helps to resolve that
yeah,
in this lifetime, why you don't know why you're afraid.
it's probably another life trauma.
He says 90% of the time, but there are some phobias here that we
Yeah.
may not be aware of. But when you go on your traveling adventure, you can see how it probably something similar happened in another lifetime. And that's why this one triggered you so much to be so paranoid and fearful of it like that.
Yeah. So yeah, like we had this babysitter, Ruby. We were all little, and she would take us by our necks and say, "Can you see your grandparents in Spain now?" Like that. So, God. Okay. Anyway, side note. We've got a background check on her, man. Okay, I know the answer to this, but I want to ask anyway. Can you astral travel to the day where the lotto numbers are announced, for example, or stock market and see what they are? And then come back and pierce them.
Erik says you can, but you will not remember anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Can
That's
you
what he
astral
showed
travel
me.
with a little camera and take a picture? Bing, 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 bing.
I would, well, when you did that, he's showing me as you take the picture, nothing but black shows up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's like taking pictures of Dracula or whatever. All right. I don't know where I came up with that. How does it feel? I mean, is it kind of like an out of body experience where you feel euphoria and stuff, like a near death experience? Or is it just, yeah, like a dreamlike state?
It's not a near death experience, he said. It's not that. He says, because those are completely different. He says, it's almost like he says you're in a dream state where you're half awake and half asleep.
Oh,
And he says, and you know on a conscious level what you're doing, but at the same time you're asleep, so you don't go, wait a minute. And, some people do. He says sometimes some people like get scared and then they jerk back into their body, but he says you're in a sleep wake state and you're just going. And he says it's fun. He says it's euphoric. People have a lot of fun. He goes, now sometimes people do wake up tired
oh,
because they've been busy a lot.
running a marathon in New Zealand, whatever.
Yes.
So how does it compare to near death experience, like that kind of out of body? Are you the silver cord? Is it stretched longer and almost cut in a near death experience compared to astral traveling? These aren't her questions, but
Well, the near death experience, he said, as you said, you go out and because he says your team, the council, the source, whatever you want to call it, the angels, they already know the answer is you're going to go back to your body, because they know they're going to show you stuff, you're going to see stuff, you're going to hear stuff, so they know you're going to come back. But those near-death experiences are they're like lifelines for you to use when you come back here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that's what, and a lot of times with those people, of course, their life changes, but depression sets in with some of those people because of that.
Yeah, the difference.
And then other people don't do anything with it either.
Mm.
Now, the out of body travel is you're not in that same type of frequency, that same type of energy. He says it's kind of like you flying to Norway. You're flying through and you're going to get where you're going, but yet you're going to come back
right
to where you live.
You talking about astral traveling?
No, like for you, like when you go to Norway, and then you're going to always come back. And he says this is like when the astral travel.
Okay.
The soul knows that it's going to come back.
Does it ever get stuck out there and can't come back?
Erik says there have been stories where people have said that they've gotten stuck, or they just engaged in stuff that really scared them. And Erik says he's not going to say no, you can't get stuck, but sometimes people can push it a little bit too far.
And they just need to ask for help, probably from their guides, maybe from Erik, to help me, get me back. Would that work?
Yes, he said yes, but it's like when they come back, they're not so-called normal. They're like freaked out and everything's just real different. And it's because it's almost like they had a Kundalini experience way too soon or something.
Oh, well, does it get better? Or is it
Erik
permanent?
said, yeah. No, Erik says it can get better. It can, yes.
How's this compared to lucid dreaming? Astral travel.
Lucid dreaming is like, he says, it's where, he said the best way to describe it, it's like a movie projector of things going on that you get to lay there and watch it happening. You get to see different things. The travel is you're actually your soul is
right.
Yes.
You're racking up frequent flyer miles. You're not when you're lucid dreaming.
Right. He says you're sitting back eating popcorn and you're just watching.
But you can engage with a loved one during a lucid dream too, right?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
All right. Every time this person says, Sandra, every time I try to astral project, I start itching. Is it my body trying to check if I'm awake or not? I know that you have to lay still for about 30 minutes. Oh, God, I cannot do that. To trick your body into thinking it's asleep and go into like a sleep paralysis. And you have to keep your mind awake, but resist moving. It's so hard when you can't stop itching, though. And I only itch when I try this. So what's that about?
Erik says that.
I'm kidding.
When you said Erik said get an EpiPen. So he says that is your humanness, because you already know you're laying there and you're not supposed to move and you're supposed to be still. So your humanness, the ego, whatever you want to call it, I call it, our logic part of us will start focusing on the things that are itching, tickling, bugging you or whatever. But he says when that happens and you feel the itchiness, allow yourself to feel the itch and just start putting your focus on where it is you're wanting to go.
Oh,
because that itch will go away.
But what is it? What did you say? What it was? Why it is occurring?
Because it's her ego. The logic is trying to distract her from what she's doing, because her intent is to go travel and do that. So she's already told herself she's got to lay still, she's got to be still. So there's another part of her that's afraid she's not going to be able to lay still, or she hopes something doesn't happen. And then her body has these itches and stuff like that. People, like he says, people who meditate, they're supposed to just lay there, and all of a sudden,
All of a
they
sudden
got
they can't, their nose issues. Oh my God.
yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. Are there any other things that can happen that are obstacles to projecting astrally? Any of symptoms or signs? Headaches, any physical, mental, emotional, whatever.
Can you repeat that question again? That first part. I'm sorry.
Yeah, are there any other symptoms or things that could occur, kind of like itching, when you try to start projecting?
Well, Erik says, well, one of the big ones is when you start to, he says your breathing might get a little shallow, like not as deep breathing. And then he says, just allow your body to feel what it's feeling, because he says, for people who haven't done this, a little bit of fear can kick in, like, oh, where am I going? So he says, just breathe. He says, just follow your breath, follow whatever it is that's going on. And you can say, I just want this to be brief. I want it to just be for a few minutes until I can get used to this. I'm new at this. You can talk, and your higher self, hears this, and your team hears this. And he said, usually when you're first starting out, you're not going to go for 20, 30 minutes or half the night, just before a short period.
Yeah.
And then you'll say, that didn't really happen.
Oh, yeah.
Or did I do that? And Erik says, of course you did. Otherwise, you wouldn't be questioning it.
Okay. What's the best way to learn? I mean, I'm sure there's lessons on YouTube, or maybe you can get private lessons.
Erik mentioned YouTube has a source of information. But the thing with that, he says, you want to make sure you feel a connection to whoever it is you're watching.
Yeah.
And he says you could do it as a project, listen to different YouTubers who are talking about it and take notes and seeing which one feels good to you.
I had a whole bunch of DVDs that I never had time to do. Can't remember where it is.
Wow.
Do DVD anymore.
Yeah, I know. But Erik says you can, do that with the YouTube. He says you can get private, but you don't have to. Erik feels that most people would feel comfortable in the privacy of their own space with nobody watching.
Nobody wants to be the astral Mom, we need you in your body more than you are. Okay, so that's what it is. All right. A lot of people can't do this because of the fear of the unknown. Some who have done it say that there are some strange entities in the astral realm, and so some people are unsure of what to believe. Are we protected when we leave our body? Well, first of all, I think you have to say for protection. Maybe you could give yourself a very strict itinerary. All right, I want to go here for this many seconds or minutes, and I don't want to see anything but me and so-and-so or so-and-so. Okay, would that work?
Erik said yes, and
make that happen.
Erik said yes, you can do that. And people do see other entities in that. And it does scare them because we think we just look like us. Yeah. But Erik laughs and he says, we probably scare the shit out of them when they see us coming around.
Can we say, I don't want to see that? And
Erik says yes. Erik says yes. But when people are first starting out, and when they have been doing it for a while, they are real gun-ho in the beginning. And then the ones who've been doing it for a while want to stretch it and go, okay, I want to see more. I want to, and then they start seeing things that maybe that aren't really pleasant to them, because there is everything and anything out there. Yeah.
Different alien groups. We're aliens to them.
Oh, yeah. And he says, and people see darkness, and stuff. And he goes, and and that chills people to the bone when they see that darkness, because then they know it's real. The thing about the astral traveling and that, he says, when you see that darkness, you get to feel the darkness,
Ugh.
not, and that really startles people.
Yeah, but just say, I don't want that. But maybe they forget. I don't know. To protect themselves.
Erik
Can
also
anything really
saying
hurt
too,
us? Can anything beside emotionally, can anything in the astral plane actually physically hurt us?
Erik says, in a way, yes, if you are being careless with what you do. It's like kind of like drinking beer. When you get past the fourth beer, you can get into trouble.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can't, he's saying some people get a little bit too careless with what they do. They might take some additives to help them travel.
Like hallucinogens and stuff?
Yeah, I feel something,
Or
some kind of,
like mind altering drugs?
yes, that's what I'm getting from him. And so, you have to be, and they do that because they've already know how to travel. So they know where to get their body and then just go. And so he says, we have free will. So
yeah,
there's no stopping you with that. And so he says, get educated with what it is that you do. And, and he says, really ask yourself, why are you wanting to do this?
yeah.
Because a lot of people are doing it because out of curiosity. They hear what other people say, so they want to see what's going on. But really, he says, ask yourself, what's the purpose behind this? What it is that you're hoping to gain from it? He says, because a lot of people are just like enamored about it, that they can go travel to other places other than this dimension, and they want to find out for themselves.
You don't want to miss out on the human experience here either, guys. Seriously. All right.
Erik says,
More questions that I'm going
that's
to
true.
stop for part 2. Can we really visit our loved ones in heaven through astral projection? I think that's probably more lucid dreaming, but I don't know. What do I know?
Erik says that's lucid dreaming,
Okay.
but but what you can get when you're doing that, you can, it's almost like you get you just know with every fiber of your being that there is no separation.
Yeah.
So, and you having that information, that knowing, that helps the person as well.
Okay. So what's the worst that could happen to you? Because this comes on the heels of this question. How can we protect ourselves against negative entity during astral travel? So what's
Erik,
that any of these things can do to you? Or the
well, Erik says what you can, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Erik says what you can do is,
oh, says, I know.
Well, I'm really good about doing it too, or really bad. But Erik says you can put, crystals around to help with that.
Any particular type?
He says any kind that you're drawn to.
Oh, yeah.
He says clear quartz works well, rose quartz works well, but whatever you're drawn to, whatever you gravitate to, and you can put that around you. Erik says, some people feel comfort in the cross, so you can bring that with you. It's just any, things like that. Erik says it's good to have a ritual before you start, like he makes, like if you're like maybe sage yourself or some other stuff that you might use, he says, but he says do it with a clear mind.
Yeah. Surround yourself with pink Himalayan salt, or maybe do it while you're in a pink Himalayan salt bath. I'm sure there's probably a lot of different ways to protect.
He says there is.
But can you say only beings of love and light is allowed to join me or see me or engage with me while I ask for travel, something like that.
Yes, and he says, and you can also say only things that can benefit me and support me and help me in this lifetime.
Oh, I like that. Very good. All right, let me see. I'll do one more before we close part one. A lady made me laugh the other day because she said, now that I know my child can astral project, how do I put up a barrier around my bedroom so she doesn't see certain things? Haha, is there a way of doing that? Not just because of children, but also to stop people you don't know coming in. Ooh, yeah.
Erik says, your higher self, and that will not allow people to see you in the bedroom and other people to peek in on you.
Good.
That he says that doesn't happen. He said that's yeah, he says that just doesn't happen.
Good. Excellent. All right, we'll stop there. And you guys hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss part 2 of this. Be sure you check out Denise Ramon's information in the description box. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the Channeling Erik YouTube, this one, and of course the Atlanta Scalar YouTube, and share, like, whatever. I don't care if you like. I don't count likes.
I care if you like.
You can love. All right. Stay tuned for the next one.